understand what to do. I'm thinking of that as E, that we're in the key of E, and I'm doing it's a major 2 into a 5. And so that's how I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it as E pentatonic with that note. You know? Not the point of today's video, but a fun rabbit hole to go down. Well, hello there. Welcome to this episode in Conspiracy Corner. That's what I'm calling these little things where I make outlandish statements about things that I think might happen. But I've been right before. Predicted the Tonex before its official release, and then ended up getting one somehow the same day. That's a cool story. I've told that before on the channel. Also, go back. Look how long ago I was saying modeling is dead. Futures will move towards capture tech in the future simply because it's easier to create models and outsource that to the community rather than paying a bunch of devs a ton of money to develop and then hoping people like it. You can go back. I mean, those things are 4 or 5 years old at this point. And that really has come true. I mean, and it's coming more and more true every day. So I'd like to offer you another conspiracy theory. This is a big one. I am going to make the case to you why I think Helix 2, which I don't think is close to being ready, why I think Helix 2 is going to support NAM, Neural Ant Modeler. Let me explain. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you will be able to take your NAM files and just drop them right on your Helix. I don't know that everything's going to be open source. I'm not saying Helix is going to make their next big thing a big open source capture device that's like for all VSTs or whatnot. I don't think any of that. I think actually Helix is going to continue to have a very closed system where they control things. But we have to be honest with ourselves about something. Helix is in last place when it comes to capture tech. They're in absolute last place. I'll tell you how I know this. I haven't seen any jobs posted for Helix Yamaha Line 6 that talk about machine learning people that are looking for engineers with AI backgrounds. So I don't think they're making their own thing. And I think they know it's a mistake not to do something around capture tech. But they are Line 6. They exist within a larger umbrella called Yamaha. And I think Yamaha has not been in a rush to replace an existing product line that has not been fully iterated on. And if you look at what Line 6 has been doing, they know how to make a lot of money. They have absolutely probably some of the best supply chain and manufacturing capabilities of anybody they're competing with when it comes to economy of scale and how they're building stuff in China. And maybe Tonex, has as good. I don't really know. They're able to hit low price points, but Line 6, that Podgo Express is so cheap, and I wonder if anyone else could even have hit that price point and manufacture something like that. That's where their strength is. And you got to know something, man. Let me just say this. I have some experience in the business world. My life before being HW was a boring one in an office. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot being part of a company that, 5X'd, grew a mom and pop company. And I'm not saying I did all that, but I was instrumental in it. From 2 million to 10 million. And I got the opportunity to sit around a lot of really smart people. I even negotiated with a billionaire one time, a billionaire. And this is in a year where there were a lot less billionaires. It was in the textile industry. I want to tell you something someone told me one time that I thought was so smart. And they said this to me. They said, look, obviously you want to make money at everything you do. And I said, yeah. Meaning you don't want your business to be partaking in actions that don't make it money. You don't want it to be wasting time on things, right? But then he said something that was really smart. It's always stuck with me. He said, and you don't want to play a fair game. And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like I'm thinking like what you want to like pay the government off or bribe people? And he goes, what I mean is you you want a level playing field for competition. And then he said the best thing. Gosh, I love this. He said, but you don't want to play a fair game. You want to play the game that you're the best at, that you have an unreasonable advantage at. And I thought that's really interesting. And we weren't having a conversation about bribing people. We were saying you want to be the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, and then you want to go then that's the game you want to play. You want to be them walking on the field. You want to have the best in the world, the best ever, and several of the best ever right behind him. You want this unfair advantage walking on the team, walking on the court, where it's like other teams are just like, they're stacked. Or, you know, we have like a center and really great defense down below the hoop, but these guys are just field goal specialists, right? Their shooting guard is on fire. Their 3 points are on fire. It's unfair to us. They're not a team that even wants to come. They can beat us without coming into the paint, right? That's something that's where it's like, it's an unreasonable advantage, you know? And I thought, yeah. And that is what line 6 has. That is really what line 6 has when it comes to, you know, they just have this parent company that makes everything from jet skis to drum sets to, batteries. I don't even know. Yamaha is just like a crazy, motorcycles. You know what I'm saying? Like four-wheelers. And I mean, it's a bit like Kirkland in that way, right? It's like if you could buy one brand forever, you had to stick with one brand. I definitely pick Kirkland brand because I'd have batteries and like spiral hams and clothes. I could live on that. You know what I'm saying? But Yamaha's a bit up there too. And so I think line 6 in a way plays this game. They walk on the field. You know, they walk on the court with this unfair advantage already. But where I think that's hurt them is this. Ultimately, I've worked with companies, and this is where I'm going to go to my experience a little bit. I've worked with companies that were huge billion-dollar companies by themselves. I worked with a company that had $1 billion, billion dollars in revenue. They were a big player in their space. And they were owned by a much larger conglomerate called VF Corp. And VF Corp owns a lot of people. Reef, JanSport, they own Dickies now. They own a lot of people. And this company, even though it had $1 billion in revenue, its job to the parent company was to make that billion and continue to operate and throw off cash. Because that's why the conglomerate had purchased that $1 billion company. That $1 billion company wasn't as interested in some new technology that was 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line. They were interested today with value for shareholders of that conglomerate. And the shareholders in that big conglomerate, they knew that it was well diversified within a certain industry. It was in one industry, like textiles and clothing and manufacturing of those things. But they weren't like, the shareholders weren't like, we're really into shoes. But shoes were part of it. We're really into backpacks. Backpacks were part of it, right? So they would have to get permission to sort of go, hey, board above our board, we want to invest a lot of money into future stuff. And that parent company would have to go, you know, it's nice that you want to revolutionize backpacks, but we didn't buy you for that. We bought you because we kind of know this space, and there was a lot of synergy in how much money we could save you through our bulk purchasing, economies of scale, our expertise in distribution, and the prices we've negotiated with the post office, which are absurd. I mean, dirt cheap, absurdly low. You want to get into one day, I'll tell you about how this country actually, I shouldn't get into that. We subsidize the largest companies with postal contracts and the rates that we give. I mean, it's just it's kind of absurd the way we do it. Amazon too. Anyway, you as a line 6 are going to be stuck between this rock and a hard place where you might look at your competition and go, yeah, they're developing some really cool stuff. We should develop some of that cool stuff. But you kind of got to go up here and look for, because you can't go too deep outside your budget, right? You may not have the budget to hire 30 devs to go do blah, 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 right? You're not Google. And I think you see that in Line 6's go-to-market strategy. Now, I'm not making fun of Line 6 or saying anything negative about Line 6. I think Line 6 is making more money than anybody. And I think Line 6 is iterating their products to a degree nobody else is, and they're creating a ton of value in the marketplace for consumers. I was watching a Bad Brad video the other day, and Bad Brad did a video called like how to get the dumble tone or what's a dumble tone. That dude pulled out a Line 6 Pod Express, and I thought he was playing a real dumble. I mean, his tone was so freaking good. I thought, Line 6, this is the commercial. I've never heard that unit sound as good as it did in Bad Brad's hands. He was playing this SG, and I went, whoa, wow. I thought he was going to say this was something else, another device. My bias is showing. But he didn't. And so I think if we're being honest with ourselves, Line 6 is a company that is probably making more money than anybody, but I don't know that they can go on this like 2-3 year journey to develop some brand new AI tech. And I don't know that they should, because there's a perfectly viable one that's out there that's open sourced. And all they have to do is grab that open source, fork it. They can still close it off. It's not like you may not be able to grab your NAM captures and go put them over here. And they may even make their own in the box capture tech, or they might make their own capture suite. But the point is, they don't need to develop a new capture technology. They don't need to write one line of code before they obtain a capture tech. There's a brilliant one out there in open source that's now being used by several companies. And I think Line 6 is really going to find themselves right here in a little bit of a predicament, which is, we've iterated the hell out of our product. We'd like to have a successor. While we were probably thinking of what to do with a successor, all this machine learning AI stuff started popping out, and now it's become commoditized. It's becoming commoditized and cheap. When you see it in more products, no offense to more, when you see it in more products, you know it's getting there. When the Ampero Stomp 2 says capture stuff's coming, it's going to be everywhere, and it almost is. So Line 6 has this problem. It's got to convince consumers. If it comes out with a Helix 2 and there's no capture tech, it has to go on the bandwagon of convincing consumers that you don't need to capture amps. They're not as good. Everybody else has gone towards captures, but models are where you need to be. That's where you want to be. Trust me, dudes, you do not want to be in the position where you have to convince the consumer of anything other than your product checks boxes, other than your product is valuable. As soon as you get into the let me educate consumers why they need a brand new thing or whatever, you're Webvan. In 1998. You want to know who Webvan was? Webvan was the first company. Listen, I'm spitting some wisdom on y'all right now. Webvan, I remember going to see the Giants as a child, and I looked down. They opened a brand new stadium. It was called Pac Bell Park. Now it's called AT&T, or I don't know what. It doesn't matter what it's called. It's the current stadium. Every cup holder in that place said Webvan. Webvan.com. Webvan.com. You know what Webvan.com did? This is in 1998. Webvan.com. This might have been 99. Webvan.com would deliver groceries to your house. The tech was there. The stores were there. You gave them your order, they would send someone in to go get your groceries and go. They even had deals with some companies, with some supermarkets, that the supermarket's staff would pack the groceries for them and send them out. And they would deliver them. They were hiring drivers to deliver them. This is pre-gig economy. This is pre-Instacart. You guys, this is 25 years before any of that happened, right? The tech was there. You know what wasn't there? No one wanted to go. No one wanted to do it. No one wanted to go. There wasn't a good way to do substitutions. There wasn't a phone on your app. You had to order it ahead of time on your desktop, and then stuff showed up. You didn't really trust people. They could not educate the consumer that this was a better way to get your groceries. 25 years later, a bunch of people started getting sick. We had to do something. It changed our behavior. They made it easier than ever. They made it cheaper than ever to do because they didn't hire people. They put it in this new thing called the gig economy. Webvan got sold for pennies on the dollar to Safeway. It became Safeway.com. Safeway.com lost money for Safeway for years and years until it became a very small part of Safeway's business. And then boom, 2020 happened. Safeway exploded with their Safeway.com shop. So they didn't even call it Safeway.com by that point. It had been out years earlier. There was an app. They said, we're not going to do this. We're just going to do fulfillment for the other partnered apps that we're doing. The rest is history. 25 years. If you, somewhere the guy from Webvan is sitting there going, I did Instacart, but I did it 25 years too early. The phone wasn't there. The consumer wasn't there. And we could not educate the people. We couldn't get, something else had to push the change forward. And what I think is happening is Line 6 is finding itself falling behind in terms of function, in terms of features when it comes to capture sets, right? They don't have a touchscreen. They got to do that on the next one. They don't have, they have a beautiful app. They don't have, they have like they don't have phone connectivity, right? Which maybe is good or bad, it doesn't matter. They've gone with the interface that looks, is probably the easiest, one of the easiest interfaces to work with live, but it'd be even better with a touchscreen. But capture tech. So I'm asking myself the question, are they going to go and invest all this money to invent a brand new one? Or is someone there going to realize there's an open source one, we can literally cut and paste it, and then we can do what we do best? Modify, iterate, work it in so that maybe people do have to capture on their device, their computer. Maybe the captures are created on computer and only brought into the Helix. Maybe Helix 2 doesn't capture itself. Maybe it doesn't need to do the training. Maybe it just plays it. And that is where I think you can get away with creating an absolutely monster ecosystem, because I don't think you need capture tech in the devices anymore. I don't. I think ToneX has proven that. And I think to a degree QC has proven that with what they do to make their models. Their models have all the AMP stuff, controls in it. Why? Because they've shown that giant machine that they use. Well, things like HeadRush super clones, they're stitching clones together to make these super clones, and you can clone on the unit. You can clone. It's becoming that you can clone on every unit. So Line 6 doesn't want to release they don't want to release the Helix 2 and have a past gen version. Or they don't want to have a new version of the Helix that feels a generation behind everybody else. I think the economics are going to dictate that they're going to look out there and they're going to go, that right there, that's what we want. We're going to build in our built-in models, and we might even use NAM to develop a very high-tech, high, super accurate capture device or tech in our own studio so that we can load the Helix 2 with all our models. But we're going to let users bring in NAM models. If Line 6 has users bring in NAM models, they're going to have a huge open source community already who are going to adopt that software, in addition to all the Helix people they already have, in addition to all the people they'll gain by having a super competitively priced product on the market, because their distribution is great, their marketing is great, their reach is great. So this could be for them a little cheat code to do a little hop, skip, and a jump and get right back in the middle cutting edge. And at that point, they might even be able to say, our capture tech is actually the most accurate on the market. And we've given you this feature, this feature, this feature that we've built in, right? Captures with universal bright cap modifications, which we can build in. Any of your captures can use all of these deep editing parameters that we've built in. Any of these captures can also use our tone stacks that we've built in, which goes along with the deep editing things. There's so much they can do. They can still build in all their cab suites and bring in all the old stuff. It's just now you'd be able to leverage Neural Ant Modeler's tech, which is open source. Steve made it open because he's like, I'm not a product guy. I'm a scientist. Have it and run with it. And you're seeing other companies just grab it and go, grab it and go. No one's going to do it as good as them. And I don't think they lose anything by losing an open source tech. I really don't. And guys might think, oh no, they don't develop open source. I think people outside the tech community don't understand how common open source is. WhatsApp messaging is built on an open source platform. It's forked because what you do is you take the open source thing and you continue to develop and you go this way with it. So you're building in more features, more development, making it better the way you want it. So it's exclusive to you, but the base tech that you started with, rather than rebuilding it, you went open source and went over here. That also allows you to do something. It allows you to hire developers that have history or knowledge of that open source project, because when they come work for you, there's already a high degree of familiarity and an expertise that could have been developed that may already advantage you rather than having something strictly proprietary. You also see this when there's different languages. People build on different languages. And so when you go to hire a dev, you don't just say, yes, I studied computer science. You say, I'm an Android engineer. I've worked on a bunch of Android mobile stuff. I'm a Ruby on Rails guy. This is what I do. Right? I'm a full stack HTML guy. They're all writing some code. They're all sitting there like this with manga posters and stuff all around them. You know what I mean? Watching, you get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? But that's why I think Helix is gonna they're gonna have to solve their problem, which is, unless I'm wrong and they drop an AI tech tomorrow, if they're starting to develop it now or they're 6 months in, they're way behind. Way behind. And how are you going to catch up? I think the market has given you a way to catch up. This tech is becoming commoditized. Let it become commoditized. Grab the open source, iterate on it, develop on it, put it into your ecosystem. You will blow people out of the water. Blow them out. You would solidify yourself as a top 2 or 3 competitor. And that's always how it's going to be. This is never going to be a monopoly in this digital guitar world. It's too open. It's too easy to get in. There's too many people, software, AI. You can develop it and get in. But to be a top 2 or 3, and I think, like I said, I think they're probably making more money than anybody. But you can't fall behind. And the change happening right now is happening faster than we've seen in the last 5 years. The last change to this market in the last 2 years is bigger than any changes we really saw in the last 10. Because Kemper and Line 6 are 10 years old. They're still competing. But the way everyone else is entering the market and the stuff they're able to build, all these new competitors have really come about in the last 24 months. Yes, QC is older than that, but QC all of a sudden has a brand new smaller unit. QC all of a sudden we didn't have the software that was as nice. Now we have Cortex Control. That might be 2 years old. It might be 18 months old now. And we also have from QC plug-in compatibility, a huge add to that piece of hardware. And those amps are being captured using AI. So on their big machines, and they're doing all that stuff. So that's how fast stuff's moving right now. I think Helix, I'm calling it, and I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. I think the cards are going to fall, and Helix is going to pop out there and go, we actually support NAM. And it might even be, hey, well, we've made this change and that change, and you can actually use this converter to change your NAM file into this. And we've equalized inputs and all that stuff, and we analyzed the thing to make sure all the captures are the same, blah, 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 and make it easy for the user. All the things that kind of like are making it a little bit tough for neural amp modeler people right now. I think it's going to happen. I've been HW.